What makes a person unique for a career in technology might not be a good fit for a career in private equity and not a good fit for a career in consulting. But 9 unique traits cut across industries. Number 1, resourcefulness. Even during the worst job market, employers look for candidates who are entrepreneurial. The popular culture, unfortunately, has painted entrepreneurs as these superhuman beings who persist and stare at failure with a Zen attitude. They are not. What makes entrepreneurial applicants unique is their resourcefulness in turning limitations into their strengths. I once read an essay from an automobile engineer who spotted a defect in the automatic braking sensor. Any traditional engineer would have started with the sensor, but because the applicant was entrepreneurial in his thinking, his root cause analysis was different. He found a fault in the forward-facing camera whose visibility was affected by a faulty windshield wiper. What would have turned into a costly recall turned into a quick fix by replacing the rubber strip of the wiper. He sourced the best-in-market component from a supply chain partner in Latin America, an 85% lower cost solution than anticipated before. Interestingly, automobile forums raved about the high durability of the windshield wiper blades. From root cause analysis to low-cost solutions, the applicant demonstrated resourcefulness in taking ownership of the problem and turning a weakness into a strength. Resourcefulness should be specific to your job function. The LBS MBA admissions team is not looking for traditional entrepreneurial or high-level strategic solutions. Number 2, self-awareness. Interestingly, what makes an applicant resourceful could also be a curse when the person doesn't know when to quit and seek help. Quitting a path of problem solving is considered a weakness in our culture where every tale of persistence and resilience is praised, while seeking a mentor or seeking help is seen as a weakness in all quant-heavy cultures, including finance and technology. Bringing self-awareness into an approach, be it with problem solving or a career transition, is the biggest difference between a successful and an unsuccessful applicant. The obvious strategy that most applicants use in the goals essay is an awareness of the skill gap. Applicants can take a step further and show self-awareness of the limitations of their resources to tackle a problem. One applicant who was bringing rural healthcare services to women quickly realized the limitations of not having sufficient funds to start rural healthcare centers. Her self-awareness on the funding cycle, the disbursement time, and the time it took to build infrastructure, typically 1 to 2 years, is precious time to let women in rural heartlands suffer. A spike in seasonal diseases made the decision easier. She started a hub-and-spoke model where her only investment was in mobile vans to collect samples and dispatch them to towns and cities nearby for testing. The applicant's self-awareness about her limitations helped her search for an alternative solution. To learn how to answer the London Business School goals and what makes you unique essay, download FNG Math's London Business School MBA essay guide from store.fngmath.com/London-business-school-MBA-essay-guide. Number 3, inclusive leadership. Inclusive leadership is not democratic leadership, which, according to studies, is the worst kind of leadership in a crisis. Asking for votes for every small decision is counterproductive. That's why in democratic societies, we have representatives to take care of the interests of the constituents. Inclusive leadership is much more nuanced. An applicant shared how his recommender taught him this interesting technique to take the pulse of the team by asking 3 things they loved in work from last week and 3 things they didn't enjoy. If the majority voted on one aspect of a project as the worst, there is a deeper problem brewing. One time, the problem was on lack of communication, on escalating the urgency of certain deliverables. The client often in the last minute would change the scope of the deliverable. In a highly evolving industry like AI, this was considered an acceptable protocol. But when the client began changing the scope every week, the team's key contributors were on the verge of quitting. The weekly pulse of the team session helped the applicant, a team lead, understand the crisis that could emerge. He escalated the problem with his manager and negotiated a policy on the change frequency. The negotiated terms helped the team complete all test scenarios before pivoting to a new LLM model. The persistent help, as an LLM model considered insufficient, turned out to be effective for the client's banking needs. Chasing the latest and fastest LLM models was not required. Number 4, identity. In a class where more than 90% are international, bringing one's unique identity to the what makes you unique essay would be the only chance when competing with similar profiles from finance, consulting, and technology. To learn how to answer the London Business School goals and what makes you unique essay, download FNGMAT's London Business School MBA essay guide from store.fngmat.com/London-business-school-MBA-essay-guide. Broadly, identity-based narratives fall into 4 themes. The first theme is cultural, second is geographic, third is gender, fourth is familial. So let's go one by one. Cultural. Not all cultures are equal, but every LBS MBA applicant has the opportunity to bring the strength of their culture and closely tied to their identity. For one applicant who grew up in a collectivist farming community in Tanzania, where principles like Ubuntu or I am because we are and Ujamaa or shared economic prosperity were lived realities for her, and her culture valued the prosperity of the community equally as the individual or the shareholder. Rather than framing her uniqueness around founding a non-profit, she went a step deeper into her belief in food as a communal right, not as a market commodity shaped by supply-demand cycles. Her policy advisory role in a leading international organization also involved creating policies that ensure that no one is left food insecure, regardless of the market forces, poverty, war, or climate change influencing the supply of essential food items. Such a thoughtful framework led to better risk management. The long-term and strategic thinking positions the applicant for an ESG consulting role where such thinking is valued. The second factor that influences your identity is geographic. The global citizen tag is slowly evolving with restrictions on visas across Europe and the US. The emerging restrictions will make a truly global experience across Asia, Africa, Europe, Canada, and the US, or at least 3 of the 5 regions, a unique quality. One applicant shared how his schooling in Kenya, his consulting tenure in London and Toronto, and his undergraduate degree in the US have positioned him to succeed in the next stage of his consulting career. What most applicants want to share as their unique trait is their global perspective. This global perspective is not driven by fragmented media bubbles based on algorithmic segregation or even motive-driven mainstream media narratives. The geographic perspective is a lived experience, and that's why schools value applicants with international work experience. There are perspectives that one could acquire from consuming media and networking with peers from different cultures, but it is the face-to-face interactions and lived experiences in communities from which a true understanding of culture emerges. Capturing this unique lived experience is essential to connecting international work experience to your identity. The third factor that influences your identity is gender. Even if women are graduating at a higher rate than men, the preferences of women for certain job functions have propagated inequity in certain roles. As industries prioritize leadership roles from these emerging functions, the shortage of VP candidates in Fortune 500 companies will exacerbate. For one applicant who was leading an initiative in her PE firm to nurture and build a talent pool for women leaders, the challenge was unique to the regional office the firm had expanded into. The culture in the country limited the travel of single women without the support of male family members. Such changes in norms take time to fully immerse in cultures. Citing examples of unique interventions without critiquing the culture is a balancing act and should be carefully worded. Another applicant mentioned the struggles of oil and gas female engineers who had to work in uninhabitable terrains. The intervention to bring dignity to female employees with portable toilets and scheduled office hours also translated to improving the working condition of the entire company. Improving working conditions, offering equitable growth opportunities, and changing culture could also be phrased as a net positive for the entire company. Such narratives stand out from the often divisive tone seen in essays on gender equity. With 45% women in the latest class, London Business School has consciously taken the first step in nurturing talent for VP and executive roles. A balanced gender-based identity narrative works for the "what makes you unique" essay. The fourth factor that influence your identity are familial influence. A consistent theme I have read in MBA essays is the influence of family, that is, parents, grandparents, and siblings in choosing a course. I would recommend that you use your family's uniqueness as the last option. The only exception is if your parents immigrated to or reached the US or UK as refugees. The hardship in attaining a career milestone is different for an applicant from a stable family than for an applicant who had to manage the turmoil of losing relatives and settling into a new culture. For other applicants, you don't need dramatic narratives to show your unique traits and values. One applicant shared how her early involvement in educating underprivileged children through her parents' foundation helped her to see her role beyond an honor. The parents were hands-on, often arranging the chairs in the venue and assigning chores for the applicant. Even the purchase of books and school supplies was done in the presence of the applicant, with discussions around budgets and making bulk deals. The cost-conscious upbringing to maximize impact in communities brought financial rigor and community focus to all her involvement, regardless of the profit or non-profit nature of the project. This unique trait translated to due diligence for private equity investments, where she intervened while investing in a portfolio company. When the majority in the investment committee wanted to discontinue a product to maximize profit, she decided to visit the communities that relied on the product for their nutritional needs. She advised against discontinuing the product, sustaining goodwill among the community during a challenging 2020 to 2022 period. Keep the familial influence to traits, habits, and values. To learn how to answer the London Business School goals and what makes you unique essay, download FNGMAT's London Business School MBA essay guide from store.fngmat.com/London-business-school-MBA-essay-guides. The fifth "what makes you unique" example is around courage to question the status quo. With the incentive to cut costs by building a global supply chain, trade flourished around the world, with each country bringing its unique strength to the products and services served in the marketplace. The collaboration was not limited to skills. The cultures of the interacting countries are also transmitted while collaborating. Under such global influences, a skilled professional can gauge the difference between innovation that works in any culture and that which needs careful customization. One applicant from a venture capital background shared how the 7-year timeline for exits popular in US-based venture firms doesn't translate to Indian ventures, where the revenue multiples are not as predictable as the US markets. One of the reasons is the diverse income groups in the market and the dispersal of the market to Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 cities, with each group behaving differently. Such nuance can only be experienced through on-ground market research. The courage to question traditional wisdom in the VC community made the applicant's global awareness and local intelligence a unique trait. The sixth unique trait is your lived roles, both professional and personal. An applicant is unique when their multiple lived experiences through professional and personal roles create a unique profile that is unlike any of their peers. Most applicants choose to cite professional roles from their full-time or volunteering roles and articulate the influence of their diverse experiences on their thinking and decision-making. For one applicant, a doctor who served in rural communities, he pivoted to a policy role where he advised the city council on improving access to healthcare for low-income families. A surprising parallel existed for patients in rural communities and low-income families, with trust in healthcare services at an all-time low. The policy rejection rates from insurers and a history of misdiagnosis were the cause of the discontentment. The solutions that the applicant suggested came from his experience coordinating with insurers and offering diagnosis for the patients. The follow-up visits were broken, and the policy solution addressed this crucial gap and created a new incentive to allow patients to seek coverage for follow-up visits, regardless of the gap between the first and subsequent visits. Anyone with early exclusive policy experience would not have brought the perspective of a doctor that the applicant's lived professional experience offered. The second example is an applicant from a military family. He created a digital app to report symptoms of PTSD and shared the tendency of veterans to underreport their symptoms. Many such underreporting was cultural, and many were from a lack of insights into what counts as symptoms of PTSD. Only with a haptic feedback mechanism that measured stressors which correlated with PTSD biomarkers could the applicant tweak the app and improve reporting. Later, when he volunteered for a non-profit offering counseling for veterans, the app offered in-depth reporting on the biomarkers, an insight that was quoted by lawmakers. The third example I've read was an applicant who was the only caregiver for her ailing father. She offered a perspective on flexible working hours that were not driven by a day in the office, but based on hours every day in the office. This was an unusual request at first, where an employee could choose to work from the office 2 days a week or choose to work 4 half days in the office. The flexibility gained company-wide support as working mothers could spend time overseeing the homework or drop their children off at school. The change in policy arose from a necessity, but the applicant interviewed working mothers and built consensus before approaching the senior leadership. Consensus building outside a professional context is a unique trait when an applicant talks about improving the working conditions of peers or any narrative around change in culture. To learn how to answer the London Business School goals and what makes you unique essay, download FNGMAT's London Business School MBA essay guide from store.fngmat.com/London-business-school-MBA-essay-guide. The seventh example of a unique trait is your social consciousness. Every competent professional targeting top schools, including London Business School, has committed to excellence in their profession. That doesn't make an applicant unique. The top 1 to 5% performance will help them gain attention, but to highlight uniqueness, an applicant should lean into their belief and the passion that emanates from that belief. For one applicant, this passion was around food as a communal right. An applicant who grew up in a farming community where principles of shared economic prosperity were lived realities, the commitment to equitable growth was not a narrative built for MBA essays. She founded a nonprofit to mitigate food insecurity, all arising from cultures she grew up around, and a firm belief that food was a communal right and not just a commodity at the mercy of weather and market forces. She pivoted from her nonprofit to a policy role where she could solve the problem at a level above the operational lens. Now, her belief in equitable access to food has set a new ambition to influence impact investment in African agribusiness. The most believable essays include culture and growing up in a community as influences on the applicant's strong beliefs. The eighth factor that makes you unique is adaptability. Adaptability and resilience are now the most bastardized traits that applicants highlight as their uniqueness. In psychological context, there are nuanced differences between coping with stress versus adapting to stress versus remaining resilient throughout a stressful scenario. In our modern workplace where technology, markets, and strategies change at a spectacular pace, understanding the difference between each term, even if it's for an essay, would help you choose the best example for your uniqueness narrative. So let's see coping versus resilience versus adaptability. Coping is an individual's acceptance that they don't have the tools, mentorship, or strategies to manage an adverse outcome. Resilience is an individual's persistence through an adversity with or without the support of mentorship that could help the person come out of the adversity. Most of the time, the person is pushing through the negative outcome without fully recognizing their weakness, the factors that cause the outcome, and a life lesson that could help them prevent such an outcome in the future. Adaptability mostly refers to psychological flexibility, where the person accepts the adversity, remains present in the current moment, evaluates the problem, and commits to an action that could help the person come out of the adversity. The full awareness of the situation helps the person find life lessons from the negative outcome. So what makes adaptability important for your uniqueness? What makes adaptability a unique trait is that the person is fully aware of the uncomfortable internal experience while remaining focused on actions that have no guarantee of overcoming the adversity. The mindset helps the person push through several wrong starts and helps them find a solution for themselves, the client, the team, or the community. One applicant found adaptability as a unique trait when his Olympic hopes died from an injury. The pivot from training every day for the goal he loved as a kid to training every day to be a technologist had many parallels. With a humanities background and a spark of math genius in high school, the awareness of his strengths and the disappointment of his crashed dream didn't deter the applicant from finding his footing in product development. When his peers were let go during the great shakedown of AI in 2024, he earned 2 promotions. The uniqueness of his trait was in his adaptability. Facing setbacks was not just a personal virtue. The team's 5-month testing of an LLM model was disrupted by the entry of DeepSeek. Without rushing to blame anyone, he took ownership and pivoted the team to test the open source model for their banking product. Eventually, the team chose a mix of 2 models. For any other leader, testing and choosing between LLM models at a breakneck pace would have been a highly stressful scenario, as the choice of the technology had a direct impact on the release of 3 products that were depending on the testing. But the applicant's adaptability was a standout quality that was highlighted in the recommendation letter as well. To learn how to answer the London Business School goals and what makes you unique essay, download FNGMAT's London Business School MBA essay guide from store.fngmat.com/London-business-school-MBA-essay-guide. The 9th factor that makes you unique is curiosity. All curiosity narratives are anchored around the applicant's ability to think beyond the obvious, find insights that no one is looking for, and accentuate the solution's impact. So, I explore curiosity through 3 lenses. First is technical curiosity. The least impactful curiosity narratives are around technical solutions, where the applicant fails to connect the solution to the business impact. Even if the technical solution had an impact on the client, solo solutions have the lowest influence on the admissions team. An MBA program is a collaborative learning experience. The admission team is expecting evidence of teamwork and receiving buy-in from the leadership. Solo solutions fail in all aspects. Since the recent technological innovations are all around AI, expect narratives around testing LLM or integrating LLM into different functional niches. From technical to functional to industry, the technical curiosity should ideally cover all 3 contexts. The second subtext within curiosity is cross-functional curiosity. Best Unique Traits essay captured the applicant's ability to lead or persuade cross-functional teams. One applicant from the design team had to receive buy-in from the marketing, engineering, and factory floor, while also remaining in close contact with the international supply chain teams in Mexico, Canada, and China to achieve the cost targets. It all began when a person from the marketing team shared the challenges of promoting the driverless car in a crowded EV market. His USP was in designing the intervention system in level 3 conditional driving automation, where the driver could take over autonomous driving. His prototype had to go through 5 levels of approval, and through each functional team, he had to study their perspective and adapt his solution to meet their quality standards. The third context for curiosity is community-driven curiosity. Since London Business School has 2 essay questions, the goals essay should be used as a preface to capture professional curiosity. Community-driven curiosity could emerge through direct observation or through research insights. The direct observation translates to a personal essay over research-driven insights that looks like what a consultant would submit as a report. One applicant who was taking over her family's agri-business noticed the underutilization of women workers in her village. After kids were sent to school, they had 5 hours of free time for the school dispersal, with subsistence existence supported by husbands who were day laborers. The applicant found an opportunity to empower women workers. She offered training for the packaging division and provided a market rate for the service. In just 6 months, the income of the family improved by 40%, while her family business gained momentum with their personalized packaging. Such merging of intentions read well in the LBS MBA unique trait or any essay that requires balancing business acumen with social responsibility. To learn how to answer the London Business School goals and what makes a unique essay, download FNGMAT's London Business School MBA essay guide from store.fngmat.com/London-business-school-MBA-essay-guide. You may also contact me, Atul Jose, for any help with editing your London Business School MBA application essays at editor@fngmat.com. You can also reach out to me by using FNGMAT's contact form at store.fngmat.com/contact-fngmat.